Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. Today going through the fighters, and this will be the last of the tier list that I can get out with any reasonable amount of time. Things like super caps, the carriers and stuff like that. I could probably do the carriers, to be honest. I don't think much has really changed. The Solar Whale is still probably top. The Martial Crux is kind of disgusting now with its damage output. And the CV3K is just a solid sort of all-round earlier game if you haven't got either of those. So it probably hasn't changed much. The Battle Cruisers have changed a lot though, so the chance of me getting those out are pretty slim before the end of the year anyway. Just too much to test, too many mods have changed and stuff like that, and stuff on the mods have changed. Things like, CTG's damage output increased massively, but then the spears, they're like ridiculous at the moment because of Ox ships and the Cassox and stuff. So we'll have to get around to like properly testing those. And again, I need to find people that have like all the mods unlocked and enough tech points to really see proper usage out of it, which is a bit unfortunate. So fighters though, other than the AT021 Heavy, and I'm not 100% certain on the AT021 Energy, the rest did get tested. And not much really has changed here as well. Similar to the Vets, everything received a bit of a damage nerf. Again, someone pointed out in the comments last time, and they are correct. There is probably a technical overall damage increase on pretty much most of the fighters and Corvettes, and that's because, yeah, sure, they've lost, 30% damage buffs on them, but the carriers are now getting like a 5% damage increase. Some carriers are getting like extra damage increase on the hangers. And there's a flat 5% increase on the fighters as well. So there is a possibility that they're actually only losing like maybe 5-10% damage in total, depending on which carriers you put them on. So there is a point to that. So they haven't changed that much. And again, where you're getting buffs, the Mistral's a good example here. The Mistral got a damage increase on its system, so it got a flat 5%. It also got a the one that upgrades the weapon tech module. That's a damage increase, but the Mistral does 10 damage. So, technically it does 20 because it has the anti-air ammo, but that damage application only applies to base before anti-aircraft is in there. So it's like an extra 1% damage on it. It's, pretty much useless, realistically. So we'll start off with the Damphyre. It got that crit damage increase. It's still absolutely god-awful. Don't run it. I mean, if you've got nothing better, but the fact that I've got an SC002 in B tier on this list already just goes to show how bad the Damphyre really is. So yeah, genuinely speaking, the Damphyre it's not very good, which is a bit unfortunate, really. It went from S tier down to D. They clearly over-nerfed it. I would like to see some changes done to the Damphyre to bring it up to at least, mid-tier, so it's in that B category or somewhere around there, so then it becomes a useful ship you can use. I'm not sure how they do that. They'd probably have to give it some of its ability to attack air back. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. The Bullfrog was a weird one in testing. I couldn't get it to consistently deal damage whatsoever, which was a shame, because the Bullfrog got a strat increase. The strat increase on it and the strat itself is actually not bad. I was kind of hoping for a bit more, especially, with the Bullfrog, I think is the highest crit damage, increase. I think it's like 300% crit damage increase or something it can get, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't consistently get it performing, so that is going to stay in C tier as well. Balancer Anderson, SC002, AT021, all pretty much got the same increases. There was a slight damage increase, which is pretty much negligible on these. The big one, though, is they got an additional 10% hit rate drop on their jamming systems, which is actually really, 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 really nice. And they all perform pretty much around the same. The AT021 slightly outperforms the Balancer Anderson in terms of its screen ability. But yeah, if you're looking for a screen, these three are practically equal. So if you've got, maybe you got Stingray out already, and you want a slightly bit more of a screen, plus the fact that it's going to hit the hit rates of your enemy, pick up an AT021 Balancer or SC02. I am now running Balancer Anderson personally in my fleets. I think it looks cooler than the AT021. And yeah, I run them as a screen and a debuff on the enemy, and it's nice. It works really well. Can't knock it. It's just good. The B192 strapped buff got buffed. It's not good, and the missile damage got buffed. The missile damage is slightly better, but the fact that the missile is still on counterattack for aircraft kind of puts it in a weird spot of basically not being used too much. And the missile itself doesn't have enough damage to get through armor of some of the cruisers and that kind of thing to do anything significant. So it's a bit unfortunate. The B192 Newland is yeah, kind of meh. To be honest, should it go down to C tier? I'm gonna drop it down to the top of C tier now. Yeah, it just didn't work out too well. Moving on up to A tier. B tier was quick because these three ships are identical almost. But yeah, there you go. The Hayridin Loyal. So I don't know when this happened exactly, but during the weapon tech, it also lost a bunch of its evasion. And it went from pretty survivable and able to, you know, tank even Mistrals for a fair bit of time. And I used to use them as a bit of a screen. The evasion they lost, I think it's like 30 or 40% evasion that it's lost, has completely and utterly ruined it. It can't do damage because it just doesn't live long enough for anything to do anything with. And because of that, I'm going to drop it down into the end of B. It does go to C. It might even go to C. It should be good. On paper, it looks good still because the damage application and damage it deals is really good. But these things get shot literally as soon as they leave the carrier. They get shot before even most of my screens 90% of the time. And they just die. And I've tried playing around to try and make sure balances are out in front of it and that kind of thing, but it's not happening. The Hayridins are just dying way too rapidly. So unfortunately, Hayridin down. The Strix got a crit damage increase. It actually puts it in a position where it does pretty consistently damage with the crit damage. So a crit build on the Strix works out quite nicely, so I'm going to leave it where it is. The Vetus A, which I apparently didn't make notes on. What did the Vetus A get? Sorry, bear with me a second. Vetus A got Warhead modification, so it also got crit damage increase, which... No, sorry, just flat damage increase. Unfortunately, a flat damage increase on it's not going to be too good here because it's only got 65 damage per hit. So yeah, I mean, I say that, but it's cluster munitions, so it's 65 times 4, isn't it? So yeah, it probably stays where it is. The reason you run it is not for its damage output anyway, it's for its consistent ability to knock out engine systems and put your enemies into a position where if they lose the ship with a system down, that engine system down, over for it. There's nothing it can do. It's gonna just flat out explode, and that causes significant cost to your enemy. If they run away with an ST-59, they're like, oh, don't care then. You didn't kill the ST-59, it's going to repair in however many hours, and it'll be back on the field. If you kill it, though, you've cost them a lot of resources to build, and that is the purpose of the Vetus A. So yeah, that's about it. It stays where it is just because of its ability to take out enemy engines. Sandrake, it got a massive damage against unfortunately, for whatever reason, it's consistently not doing particularly well against It's not that it's dying, it just doesn't consistently deal the damage out. I think that's because one of its weapon systems has now become counter-attack. And that kind of puts it in a weird spot where I don't feel like it should be an A tier anymore, but down to the top of B tier, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't know, like, it used to be really good, and then when I've been running it in fleets, my Strix is doing more than it. My Spores have been doing more damage than it. Mistrals and stuff, obviously. My AT-021s, Balancer Andersons have generally been doing probably more use than the Sandrake as well. And in hindsight, it's probably the SC-02. I'm going to drop it down behind those. I think you're better off running a Balancer or an SC or an AT-021, the jamming system, over the Sandrake. I think it's in your interest. I do believe the Sandrake is better than the Hayridin at the current moment. The only benefit to the Hayridin is the fact that it can go in Corvette fleets. That's about it. Yeah. The Spore got a damage increase, which is completely negligible because its weapon just doesn't have any damage, so increasing, percentages of nothing is nothing. It has gotten, for some reason, slightly tankier. Its ability to evade has it's seemingly increased. It hasn't stat-wise. This is the thing that I don't quite understand. Obviously, some of the knock-on nerfs have hit maybe the Mistrals or something, and the Spores seem to be lasting a little bit longer. They're doing okay damage against and that puts them in a position where they do quite well as a screen. I've now started running Spore back in my main fleet for that reason. So my Spores, Mistrals, Balancers are sort of like my go-to fighters for those medium slots. With the Vetus Bs, obviously, and Stingrays at the current moment. I do run Strix if I got space, and I run Vetus As in another fleet. So, yeah, the Spore's doing okay. It stays up in A tier. The Stingray, I'm going to move this up slightly. It got a damage increase, and more I play with it, the more and more I realise how good of a screen it really is. It can tank quite a hell of a lot of damage. It's quite impressive how much tank it can actually tank. So I'm going to move it up above the Spore because they fill that similar role, where the Stingrays actually also bring in, an okay amount of damage against ships. The Spore brings an okay amount of damage against aircraft. So mix and match those two as you will, or bring both of them like I do. And you should be okay at that point. Stingrays, though, they do get targeted quite rapidly and quite pretty much first, but this is good because that means they get targeted before your Vetus Bs, which in my opinion are considerably more useful to try and, tank for. So yeah, Stingrays, definitely check those out. They got slight damage increase, if anything at all, really. I didn't notice much in battle reports, not even a 5% damage increase between old battle reports and current battle reports, so take that as you will. The AT-021 energy is pretty much the same as the Strix. Never seems to perform as well as the Strix whenever I've seen it in battle reports, unfortunately. So I am going to leave it where it is. It's still probably up there, though, in A tier. It's that sort of borderline A-B tier, I feel. Yeah. I think the Vetus A, I should have a situational here to put the Vetus A in, really, so the Stingray would move up. Maybe I'll add that for the next time I do this. S tier, Mistral, nothing really changed to it. 30% decrease to its damage doesn't really matter, and the damage increase buff that it got on its mod slot didn't really matter either. So yeah, it's just best in slot for anti-air. It's not going to really move or change. Similar for Vita B, its consistency went down slightly with the crit increase it got, but it's more or less the same. It doesn't matter too much. The Vita Speed is still your best in slot for hitting anything really of any decent size. You know, as long as it hasn't got too much any resistance. If Vita Speed starts wailing on an ST59 with EM armor, the Vita Speed really kind of struggles to do anything in that situation. But if it's targeting the likes of a Spear or something with a lower EM amount, it's not bad. It'll do the same jobs it always has, and it'll just wreck fleets, so it's still right up there. Now, unfortunately, the AT021 Heavy, I have no idea on. I haven't been able to test it. I haven't found anyone that's running it in their fleets, and I have no battle reports for. So I'm going to leave it where it is, which is off my initial analysis of it, which is the fact that it's got a giant-ass torp system, I believe it was. So it's kind of like a Levy 9. Actually, if you saying that and thinking about it, a 30% damage increase is probably going to hit it pretty damn hard because it's got a massive alpha on it. So I'm gonna preemptively put it at the back of A tier because of that. So yeah, I think that looks okay to me, ish. I don't know if I should move the Hayridden down to C tier. Like I am so gutted with the Hayridden Loyal, because by the time I got it, it was really good, right? Everyone was wanting it, and I got it, and then I think like I had it for like 2-3 weeks. And then the nerf happened, and the weapon changes happened, and it lost all its... And it just went from like, this is really... Oh, it's crap, and I kind of hate it now. I think I'll leave it where it is. So, what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Mistral still best in slot. Again, my fleet at the moment, I'm running Mistral, Vetus B, Stingrays, Spores, and Balancer Andersons. I do run Strix on occasion, swap things around. It depends on you know, which carrier I'm bringing in and which setup I'm bringing in. I'm currently testing a new setup, which is running aircraft only, no corvettes, so I can run a strike fleet on the side to have a bit more of a play with that. And in that case, I'll probably be running Vetus B, Strix, Mistral, Stingray, maybe Balancer. Or I might run Spore. I'm going to run only solar whales for the carrying capability, so I can get more ships with anti-fleet, anti-ship capability, and a bit more tank. So we'll see how it goes anyway. So, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you next time.